recording. I've been noticing on Substack, I'm Dr. Lisa. For those of you who are new to me, welcome. This is the Owning Her Health Afterglow. Owning Her Health Afterglow. I'm Dr. Lisa, and we're trying out this pre-recording of the live. My podcast, Owning Her Health Show, is coming back after about a 2.5-year hiatus for various reasons, which I want to explain here. I thought I'd try this out. And basically, this is a solo episode, and I'm not going to put any music underneath. I'm not going to make anything fancy. I'm doing the show for the content of it. I'm not here to impress. I'm not here to perform. I'm hoping that the 5 years that I've kind of been quiet in terms of not coaching per se, not doing a lot of the group coaching. It's been about 5 years since I ran my last Mind Body Brand Academy, closer to 6 years. Gosh, it's crazy. About 5.5 years. And really the show was for that audience, which were women that, craved their career. A lot of them were in the caregiver economy, whether they were necessarily in healthcare or not. A lot of them were, because that's who I was helping primarily through My Body Brand Academy. But I came back now because I was going to retire that show. But the crap show that's happened here in America, which we really can't be surprised about, although I think we're grieving. I know particularly Gen X and older millennials, or millennials in general, we're grieving because we genuinely, our parents were ignorant, but here in the US, we weren't. And yet we got seduced enough into the climate, into the comforts, into the gains we had made, into the culture, and completely missed that since Nixon, the people who didn't like Nixon getting impeached or leaving, put into effect a lot of stuff, and a lot of things have been, dismantled. And I had to come back because I am ready, because I became dismantled. For those of you who are new and didn't listen to any of my old shows or know me, my whole life and structure and roles, marriage, my kids getting a little bit older, my brand, I had retired sort of the Belly Guru. I had been moving into moving online, working on my ex's business to make that a family business and a family empire. When I look back, I can see why I was kicked out of that, because of what was to come. By the time we got to the pandemic, I had already suffered from white collar domestic violence, from betrayals in family, from a lot of the deconstruction work from the patriarchy, and I had gone through that in my inner circles. And so I could look at it from a perspective of like, okay, everybody's going to finally like understand what I'm saying, because it was always so hard for me. And probably if you're neurodivergent, and I'm not even going to say neurodivergent, I'm going to say non-normative, non-mediocrity. You have always probably had a really hard time with explaining what you felt innately. And I understand that. I intimately understand that. But you could hold your intimate circles and you could work on certain projects and this and that. Well, now we got a big project. And I couldn't retire at Owning Her Health because everything I had created the Belly Guru for, and Owning Her Health, and moving that empowerment out into the world, regardless of your situation, is more needed now than I think it was needed 10 years ago. when I launched the podcast in October 31st, at Halloween Eve. I recorded my first show. But that in and of itself, being a Halloween show, um, it was just such a different world. I can so relate to where we need to be here in redefining her. You're the her, but the world needs to redefine, and we're finally going to have enough men on board who are realizing this has nothing to do with my masculinity. This ultra masculinity that they're pushing, this ultra patriarchy that has turned into um anarchy almost. We're almost at the edge of that, but definitely an authoritarian fascism underlying, and Christian national and all that tie-in. Men are now deconstructing themselves from. They're realizing the injury of the patriarchy without us saying it and them feeling shameful for falling for it. Listen, we all fell for it. I feel that grief as Gen X. I can feel it. It's a similar grief to what many men are feeling, especially if they're Gen X, especially if they're older millennials, where we were so close. We were the generation that really, even if it was propaganda to distract us and think we're going for a democracy and being the global um, regulators of all the chaos and the excuse me, the despondence and things like that. We believed it. We believed the morning cartoons, Saturday morning cartoons, and the Justice League and the Legion of Doom. Like, we believed the Marvel comics that the very wealthy Lex, bald, white Lex Luthor guys had an inferiority complex that he turned into his villain era, and his power was just having money and control over people and knowing and going for their weakness, their kryptonite. Like, we understood. We watched Star Wars and understood we were the resistance. We weren't the empire. We didn't want to be the empire. Something happened. Something happened. I'm not going to get into it. It's a combination of social media, the oligarchs coming in, kind of like the monopolists of the first Gilded Era 100 years ago here in the US. And they just keep playing the same playbook. And now we see it. Now we see it. Now we see it. So, what do we do? What do we do? Well, here's the deal. Owning Her Health is going to come back. Last time I was really publicly active, like I said, was 2017, 18, 19, 20. My anchors were dismantled. How did I get through that? How did I live even with the financial instability and, quite frankly, my chosen extraction of myself? I mean, I over the past 5 years, I gave away probably $500,000 in a salary, at least. I needed that. I needed that because I lost a lot of money through the divorce, through the financial infidelity, through just broken family dynamics, the cost of that when you have children and they had to go through college. It was just a real big mess. How did I do that? I was following a sacred success path. I was following and drinking my own Kool-Aid. But I'm not a cult. I'm a culture. I'm a sacred culture. I'm a woman. I am somebody who I will live the life that I'm preaching to you. I'm not a salesman. I am a human. And I'm standing here right now to tell you that the positioning and the time affluence that I've had is more a matter of mindset and infrastructure. I can come back to this podcast. because I had the infrastructure to come back to this podcast. I have an email list to reactivate because I had formed an email list for for many years, now almost 20 years. Some of them, many of them followed me through the process into being patients and then listening to my, and doing my life coaching and taking some of my programs and starting their own boutique practices. And, they evolved with me. I was just a couple steps ahead to soften it a bit, but I didn't necessarily take out the challenge. My people are strong, which is why I know right now that they might need the space to have the practice, to get the feedback, not as coaching, but like as consultants coming together, because they've established their own little spaces and circles. But we're about to, right, fool around and find out fast here in America. We're those of us who are watching it and have fooled around in our own lives and found out faster than the majority, um, are in a very unique position right now to give the new playbook, the parallel playbook. I think before many of us, and I know myself and what I was coaching and guiding people and had created for my own clinic, boutique, and wellness culture and all of that, was kind of making my own silos. And that's where I was. That's where I spent the 2008 to 2010, 11. I watched neighbors go bankrupt and have to leave their houses, but we kept ours. Like I was in my own little bubble. I was minding my own business. I was whatever, but I was deeply hurt by 45's um, presidency. I woke up that next day on November the 5th, 2016, feeling like somebody beat the hell out of me. And from that moment on, I had my reawakening. I had my night of, I didn't, I adjusted, but I adjusted still to work in that. I made the error of saying what a lot of people have done. And I think that's what got 47 presidency in. I ran right back into what I had been working my way out of this thought process that if I can just, make that guy okay and use everything I had learned through the Belly Guru and my branding academy and all of that and all the success I had pivoting from clinical care into more of like an online authority and coach. If I could just take that into his business, then he'd be okay when I really come back and I really explode and I really fix things and I change the infrastructure and I do all the things. I thought I had time. But within a year, just that push caused the return, fight and flight and his fly back into his comfort zone, which was the patriarchy, which was the red pill culture, which was the victimization. I mean, he has his breaking down, but he couldn't necessarily. I became the villain. I became the Lex Luthor in his Superman story. And that was a very necessary place for me to be. But that's where women ended up when we collectively pushed in the Me Too movement. 2020 came in and we had that whole insurrection and all of that stuff going on. That was that pushback to run. That was the men and the conservatives running back because what did they unleash with that 2016 election? There was a massive reorganization of women. There was a massive reorganization of marginalized communities. There was a massive reorganization, and it looked like progress. And we really thought we had enough time to sort of say, okay, things got better. I don't need to be on top of this as much. I can go back and sort of like, you know, baby the fragile for a little bit, so that thinking that it was going to make us easier because we thought we had time, and we didn't. And so we're here. And so we're here. And so I'm standing here to tell you, like I said, this infrastructure, that's where I've been. I've been building the new infrastructure. I call it a biospiritual ecology framework. I have a 5A sacred success path. That's a process that's not just one way. It's not linear. It's the curvy hustle. You go in and out of stages of it, and every evolution is more atomic. It's intimate. It's involutionary. The whole structure, the organizational structure, is not up a mountain and in a peak and in a hierarchy. Success is not getting to a different level of vertical. It is not necessarily widening our reach horizontally. It's as deep as it is, high. It's as wide and horizontal as it is deep. So I'm really excited because as a woman, I really do feel like the universe. I would teach that in my systems of healing and well being in a very bio-spiritual way. But the biopsychosocial model, the way that it was always being brought into the medical model, is our limitation. We're not the medicine for the medical model. We're not necessarily medicine. We're in the well-being, in the care economy. We're not in the health, we're not in the sick economy making. We're not in the extractive capitalism, corporate health. We're not, even if we're in the finances, even in the finances, if we were healers in financial health, which I saw a lot of women come in to their own in the financial sector and leave corporate or have been pushed out by the pandemic, and you literally created the medicine for it. And I interviewed some of you guys. You can go listen to Owning Her Health, some of the original podcasts, probably anywhere from like the 70s through the 90s kind of shows, where it was 2020 already, and we were seeing the medicine women coming out of finance, and we were seeing them come out of education, and we were seeing they were coming out of different places. They were coming out of law. They were coming out of, we are reap for blue oceans. We are reap to see. I mean, AI is going to force us not to be known by our degree, but by our skills and our person and our human systems. The things AI can't do, the things that they can give a robot to do and automate, are not the human systems. And they're hitting that wall right now. So it's our time. It's our time, but we're at the place of maybe needing a space and conversation, and you'll have that exposure here in the podcast of this bio-spiritual ecology framework, of the 5 A's, of things that you can immediately apply. And then I'm going to create the spaces for you to immediately apply them together with us. Not because I'm coaching it. Listen, I can be the leader now. I can give you the templates. I can give you the blueprint because you've evolved enough into your leadership to take it and run. Take it and run. So we're going to come together when that doesn't work for you, and you need to come back and say, not what did I do wrong? Tell me what I did right. Here's what I did. Why is this not getting the same outcome? We don't have enough spaces like that. We had too many people telling us how to be them. We had too much NLP, Tony Robbins crap, hijacking our system to be this automated, robotic, stoic, linear success. You fall off, you're a failure. It's all gone if we'll just surrender it. And so we're going to talk about being able to do that and have more intimate spaces. The Owning Her Health Afterglow Substack is where, you know, there'll be the free notes, there'll be the occasional articles of some of my creative sides, some of my poetry coming back, um, and the shows, and kind of like when I'm working on the shows and asking for feedback on that, some of the concepts that I might not speak about on the show. But then in the paid tier community, I'm going to ask you to, support the podcast, support the podcast Afterglow, and support us meeting together in those membership perks to get all access, to be invited to in real life events, to be able to work together to repair the sisterhood. I believe that's an aspect that's always been there and needed. I did it in my small circles. It can be done. It's uncomfortable. It's allowing for there to be discomfort and authority holding hands. We need to do that before we invite the men in. The men are going to be part of the Substack. The men are going to be part of the, if they want to listen in, I hope they do, because I think they're going to be able to relate to a lot of it. The men who would listen, because they need to reclaim their feminine and masculine dance, their curvy hustle too. They need to learn the dance. It's got to be fluid. It's got to be who's the leader for what it is now? What's the relationship? It truly is a conversation of relationship. This podcast now is going to be a lot more about relationship and the systems that determine that relationship and those power dynamics, and how we stay biospiritually healthy for holding that field. Because I don't think anybody's taught us that. They've taught us how to own our like personal field of health. Right now, we're talking a lot about neuroregulation and all of that. Um, but that needs to be able to go out in the world. You need to be able to hold the line quietly. We really need to be like walking in Christ consciousness right now. We need to be owning our sacred heart and our belly and our womb wisdom. And it doesn't matter if your gonads are a vagina or a penis. It doesn't matter, because we all need this skill. This is human systems, but there needs to be an infrastructure for that. So I have the templates, I have frameworks. I'm going to welcome in some of in the private community app and in the paid um, tier of the Substack to get some of the perks of the actual practice and application and feedback, because there's no time. I don't want to coach you now. I don't want you to be using my system. The Mind Body Brand Academy, I am probably going to repackage that and open that up for yoga therapists to kind of DIY. I've had it there as a DIY. I'm going to, update, and because it's just a book you can read. It's a workbook you can do. We are we are past the point of giving ourselves permission to change the rules. And so I'm really looking forward to coming back. The first episode will put out the official back for the early series, that the first series that I have going on Easter. And there's reasons for that. If you know, you know. I'm not. These are discussions we'll have in the Afterglow. But I think something else I want to plant a seed with in the last few minutes of this, because I don't want any of these lives or the podcast to be more than 30 minutes. I'm not going to make short form dopamine hits except to say come to the show, because there's work to do. So something I want to kind of like plant as a seed there for you right now is, some of you may know about the show I ran during the pandemic, the other podcast, the second podcast I have. It was a short series show. It was meant to be just, whatever number of shows and episodes, the Evolving Human Show. It was a roundtable format, intimate, honest. I had men and women there, exploratory on some of the things I was going under. deconstruction and dismantling from, which was a lot of the white collar domestic violence I had gone through, and the gaslighting and the and intimate betrayals and really loss of my best friend. Like, what do you do when somebody dies, but they're not dead? But, like, that part of them, like, they died. That version of them died. Not because 'cause they're, not in contact with you, but they're literally a different person. And I think a lot of us are going through a lot of those same things, but not just in our intimate relationships. That's what's going on when we're seeing our neighbors, uh through all of these political things and all of this deconstruction of the US's version of a republic and a democracy that followed the Constitution, because we're not that anymore. But we're not the new thing, whatever it's going to be. And it's a really scary time. And I've been sitting with whether to bring it back as its own thing. I think what I've decided is that the spirit of that show, the town hall quality, and the co-working in conversation is probably going to come back to the Owning Her Health show. But that private podcasting um, intent of sort of where that show might have gone is gonna be in my app community, in my community app. Um, the Curvy Hustle app is where you're gonna be if you, like, are really ready to, uh, be the person you need to be to do the things you need to do using these principles so that we're all on the same page in terms of, like, what is this new playbook? And again, like I said, that's where you'll be able to, like, contribute and help form this network, because I want this network to pay you. I want to be able to pay you for your participation. And so that's some of the stuff that I want to just sort of plant a seed for you with. And the best place to learn and hear about that will be in the Substack, because you'll learn where to go from there. Um, And this is really the beginning. This has a potential to be a beginning of the media company for that cooperative that we can form out of that circle, that most active practicing, applying, and creating those little health hubs and those little care hubs and reforming the community work. We could really share in a cooperative media company. Um, so, I'm going to say that plainly, because I think that when we name things, we own them. I'm not at all worried somebody's going to take that idea, because they are not going to have the people who form that. Good for them if they could heal the sisterhood, give each member their bio spiritual mapping and regulation tools and ability to sustain themselves at the processing level that they're already, you know, non-normative to twice exceptional rate. Like good for them. If but I don't believe that they'll have the Curvy Hustle. And so we can, and this is the new model of how we're going to work. I'm not saying give away everything to the wrong people. We're going to be very much screening. I've always operated that way. Um, but we're going to be playing a different playbook. And Owning Her Health podcast is the flagship. The Afterglow on Substack is the depth layer, and the Curvy Hustle community on the private app, the community app, is the infrastructure for that, for where I see ourselves going. And it's not me making this stuff up. I have looked at what Spain and Finland and, like, these pockets in France and places where it worked, where where it worked enough for it to be normalized enough that other people took it into their ecosystems. Listen, the care community was there before all the rest of the other things like capitalism, socialism, Marxism, all the other isms, the racism, the this it community is care. You don't have community without care, although we've been sold that. Um, so yeah, so the forum, the cooperative spaces, the practitioner networks, that all grows from this foundation, from the Owning Her Health podcast, coming back, mission driven as ever, maternal in nature. I am not worried about people who've never had kids. There's a whole chunk of you who need to resolve your maternal authority. You have not graduated from it because you did not have kids. And when you formed and birthed your enterprises, you went into an empiric structure. You basically entered in the proximity of the empire playbook and you've played it very well. But it's time for us to extract you if you're ready to be extracted, and for you to give us the intel how to dismantle all of it, even your own that you want to burn down. Because there's something else that is parallel. Listen, the things that want to remain in that, that need to remain in that, and I'm going to talk just from a healthcare model, medicine will be there. Allopathic made wonderful gains, but it is emergent care, it is urgent care. Physicians and nurses need to stay and practice at their full highest level of their authority and their licensures. They don't know wellness. They nurses do. The ones that want to practice outside medicine and sick care need to graduate themselves out and come back into the care economy. They need to be part of the allied health network of the care economy. They need to be part of the caregiver networks. They need to be even given a sustainable ecosystem that can allow them to just be caregivers of their grandchildren, unpaid labor, if need be. But they get some sort of social credit for being that in the infrastructure. We're taking it back. We're taking it all back because everything's broken, everything's collapsed. And even if you are lucky enough to be in your silo, you better stay there because it's like me thinking about the apocalypse in terms of, let's say, a nuclear holocaust. And we've got all these rich people that are ready to take a rocket and go into space a while. Maybe they'll get to Mars. I doubt it. I doubt they're going to have time for it. We're probably going to press a button before that. But if we don't press the button, if we went into those caves because we did press the button, I'm not going into the cave. Did no one see the day after in the 1980s? I'm not coming up to a complete wasteland of radioactiveness that I have to then like go through, somehow get exposed, just even to get to places that might have not been too exposed. I am going to have a party. I'm going to be quite calm. I'm going to be sitting there at peace, and I'm going to be as close to the ground zero as possible so that I evaporate. I'm done at that point because I'm there now. I'm not looking to go last to be a burden on society. And that's how I see us right now. That's kind of how I see us in this um those women that sort of went in and they think they're going into the caves and they're going to be able to come back out, and the people, men and women, who are kind of in their silos and their country clubs and their closed off gated communities, like, you better hope you get into that high elite class if they're not destroyed in the revolution, um because you're on your own. When you come out, you're on your own. And you can be part of helping what's there in the infrastructure and more welcome if you just throw your money at us. Throw your money at people like me. I'm going to flat out say it. I'm not going to be nice about it. If you feel you can't be political right now because it just stresses you out and you're comfortable enough and you're just waiting for the hero to come in and fix it, whoever that is in your mind, God, your husband, your wife, yourself, your money, whatever that is, just understand you need to be throwing money at people right now because that's the way the world works. because otherwise you're going to be seen as somebody who is unsafe and untrustworthy. And that's what we see right now. That's where a lot of white wealthy women are not understanding as they're deconstructing themselves from religion, deconstructing themselves from conservative politics, decolonizing themselves. There's plenty of women of color who are decolonizing themselves. I'm one of them who had to do that, realizing how whitewashed I still was, even though I had gone on my little journey, my big journey. But I don't want to take up too much more time. I just kind of wanted to say and explain where everything is now. Put this on the Substack. I'll probably get this up onto the main podcast sometime in the week. Like I said, the first series will get put out, the first episodes on the 25th. We're almost there. That's a significant date in my head. Um, and I'm excited. I'm excited. Welcome. Welcome. Thank you for welcoming me back, and welcome to anyone who's new, because pretty much everybody here on the Substack um, is new, except for maybe 35 or so of you that hobbled on over when I said I was starting up writing again. So welcome back.